'Cause the fog on the Tyne is all mine, all mine. The fog on the Tyne is all mine. The fog on the Tyne is all mine, all mine. The fog on the Tyne is all mine.
This is what I'll do to tune, what I would call tune my rifles anyway. So anyway, like I say, we've got the piston. I've just lifted the piston head off. So obviously the piston seal comes like that. So this one, like I say, with it being a new rifle, it's still subtle-ish. It is starting to go hard, which I found is a little common problem with the Prosports, but if you are having that issue and you don't want to pay for the kit, what you actually do is when you strip it out, what I've done before to quite a few, and it's made a very noticeable difference, is actually take them off and boil them. For some reason it makes them go supple again, and they last quite a bit longer. Like you say, just make sure there's no nicks, tears or anything like that in them before you put them back in, or you basically defeat the object. But that's what I've done to them before anyway. I always keep them as a spare just in case. Because like you see, I actually boil them and then size them to the compression tube when they fit. So yeah, that goes in the toolbox. So we can click the Delrin rings back on. With these Delrin rings, what you want to check for, make sure there's no big gouges, anything like that. They're running smooth. No scoring marks or anything like that, because obviously, like you say, that means there's scoring inside your compression tube and the cylinder. So there we go, that's that. And like you say, I give that a quick polish again with, oh, you see that? 4.0 grade wire wool. So there you go, that's been polished with wet and dry 4.0 grade wire wool. So we'll put that on one side. Right, this one, exactly the same. Polished on the outside, 4.0 wire wool. And this is my little trick. This is what I do. So like I say, whether it be the right way, the wrong way or whatever, this is what I do. I've got an old spring I keep and I wrap it in 4.0 wire wool. Now when you get these, if you look inside the compression tube, that's what I turn them out like, using 4.0 wire wool and a spring. Polish them to a mirror finish. Right, now people are probably going to comment on the video and say, yes, but now you're going to get loads of bits of wire wool in the compression chamber. No, you're not, because I spin this round and tip it down. I'm going to might have to move back a bit. I've got a compressor, so obviously when I'm busy, everything that we do gets blown out with compressed air to make sure there's no bits left or anything like that. So, and then it also gets washed out with not a dirty rag, a clean one. So you see, what I do is push it so far in, get a screwdriver at the bottom. The screwdriver, I'll grip the cloth, give it a good few turns, just pull it back out, push it to the side of the cloth, and just do that on the way out. And as you can see, it picks up all the little bits of wire wool that's left, if there's any. So you are left with that, which to me is a mirror finish. So there we go, that's that done. Another thing about your compression tube, your buttons, again, any little chips, there's a little chip in that one, look. So what I'll do is I'll get some wet and dry later and I'll just smooth that off. Any score marks or anything, and you'll find them inside the compression tube. or inside the action, whatever you want to call it. So there you go. That's what I do to them anyway. The polished various grades of wet and dry. I've done it before. I've just given it a quick polish again with a wire wool, and the same with the action. Stick it down. There we go. Polish and polish and polish till you get a little. You'll not get a mirror finish inside there, because like I say, this bit is actually, it's not matterless, but it's still got to be smooth. But the actual compression takes place inside the compression tube and the piston. So this basically is just your cocking effort, whatever's in this tube. So like I say, I still give it a quick polish, just to basically aid the cocking and make it basically effortless. So that's that. Right, so anyway, V-Mach kit. What we get in the V-Mach kit, we get a nice little pot of Steve's special grease. We get a nice little bottle of oil, which must have something in, because like you say, I normally shake them, and you can see, if the camera's catching it, you've got little filings inside. It's like a copper grease. So you give that a good shake and it mixes amongst the oil like that. So I don't know what Steve puts in it, but obviously it's his little trade secret. So right, anyway, when the kit comes, obviously check on the back, make sure he's give you the right kit. Air arms, Prosport, Post 2000, caliber 177, 12 foot-pound, 16 joules. Make sure he hasn't give you the FAC kit, otherwise you could be in trouble. So, right, anyway, inside the kit, obviously mainspring. So, if I get some scissors. So, what we've got, pre-greased mainspring with Delrin top hat and new backplate washer, and Delrin front top hat, or whatever you want to call it. So we've got that. In the middle, be careful without cutting them, you've got two brand new breech seals, which is for obviously the breech and the compression tube. So we'll put them in again later once I stop the camera. Right, this is the technical bit. Right, so if we tip this out, what we've got the green V-Mach piston seal, which when matched up with the original should be, as you can see, a little bit bigger. Now if I flip it that way, there you go. It's about, I would say, 1/2 mil bigger all the way around. Now this is because what I do is, your compression tube, I've polished the compression tube, haven't I? So obviously I've taken a little bit, if minuscule microns, off the inside of the compression tube. Therefore when you put your piston in, if you had a normal size one, it might not fit. Obviously that one there is oversized, which is great, because that means what I can do now is I can fit it to the piston head, and I can then get a bit of 1200 or whatever, very very fine, ultra fine wet and dry, and what they call size the piston to the compression tube. So that can be done in a second. What we've got, you've got a Delrin preload washer, which goes, this is where some people get it wrong. Your power washers, which are these ones, go in front of the piston, which is actually inside the piston. So like you see, we've already took the piston weight out, so these washers will actually sit inside like that. So as per the instructions, fit 2 washers. So we've got 2 washers. We fit 2 washers inside there. So that there replaces the piston weight where I've done. There it is. So you've got 2 washers replacing that. So obviously you can see there's quite a lot of there we go, that way. There. So obviously there's quite a bit of difference between that and that. Bearing in mind that when I had it, I had this with those 2 as a preload and then the spring on top to get that. So like you see, that's that. This bit, clever little tool, is what Steve puts in for you, for helping you put the piston seal on. So what we've got is that sitting, if I get it the right way around, bear with us. That's sitting like, is it that way? That way. Now I'm all confused now. It's going to make me look daft on camera. Yes, I have done a lot of these before, but 9 times out of 10 what I do is whack a little bit of Steve's oil on my finger, like that. Smear it inside there, and me having Garth arms, I can normally, this is where I'm going to prove you wrong. Yep, and this one's being tight. So anyway, I can normally fit them over like that, but obviously on this one I can't. So what we'll do is, we'll go back to the instructions. So there we go. That goes in there like that. That goes in there like that. That goes in there like that. And what we'll do is, that's where everything goes flying, so we'll take it off the wood. There we go. Right, so there we're gone. Right, that's the way to do it. You've got that preloaded onto the piston head. That sits flush on the deck. I'll just wind the wind it down 2 seconds so you can see the wood. There we go. Right, so that sits on top of that like that. The piston head sits on top of the black Delrin bit. Keep it square, and you give it a tap, and here ho, this fits the piston seal of the piston head without damaging it. So that there is now redundant, which is where that one came from. So I've now got 2. So there we go. Right. So now that's the piston head fitted, the piston seal, sorry, to the piston head. Like you see, that's your compression tube, all nicely polished inside. What we'll do now is, if I find me dentist pick, which is another little tip for you, where have I put it? I did have one, honest. What have I done with that? Right, I'll put that down somewhere and can't find it. There it is, right in front of my eyes. So anyway, like I say, set of dentist picks. Got to pull seals out. What you do is pierce the seal, pull back. There's one. Pierce the seal again, pull back. There's two. So ideal for rubber seals. Right, so like I say, get that, everything I do, give it a bit of a wipe, like that. Another little bit of, just a smidge on there. Rub it between your fingers. Drop the first one in. Allen key, because obviously you don't want to damage it. Just push it around like that. There's one in. Second one. Just work it back and forward until it sits in. Like that, and they will seat themselves properly when you close the compression tube against the breech. So like you say, you don't want to be using any sharp objects or anything like that. So right, so that's that. So we'll get rid of these, we've done my polishing, we've done that, we've blew it all out. Right, this is where we get the mucky side. Right, so I'll put that away. And we get our grease. Right, so this is the way I do it anyway, like I say. Small glob on your finger, like that. Around the Delrin. Like that. You don't want it too thick. And what I also do is just run my finger around the edge of the piston seal, like that. Just so you can see it's got a glimmer on the edge of the piston seal. Any gets on the front of the piston seal, give it a wipe with a cloth. So as you can see on that one, it's bone dry. Like you say, just round the outside edge like that, just so you can see there's grease, actually grease there. Same with your back one. If it goes in a compression tube, so that, like you say, just a nice liberal amount over the top on there. What I do actually do sometimes as well, I forgot to tell you about these, is your piston head where the sear is. There, you normally find some of them, you get a little bit of a rough edge around there. If you give them a bit of a polish with some very fine wet and dry, then obviously again your 4-row wire wool, just give it a bit of a polish. I'm not going to do it now because it's already been greased up, so otherwise you'd be getting your metal filings rubbing into your grease. So like I say, that's that. Little dab there. Just to give it a little bit of lube on the side. Like see, spread that in. Because what will actually happen if you put too much grease in, this is where your dieseling occurs. If you put too much grease inside, what happens is when the piston comes and slams home, all that grease that you've put down there shoots forward, which leaves a big glob behind the piston head. So when you pull the piston head back, it leaves a thin layer of grease up on the inside of the compression tube. So obviously when it catches forward again, all that grease that is now left inside the compression tube is now in the front of the piston head, which ignites in the compression, which causes your dieseling. So that's why people tend to find that if they do that one servicing and stuff like that, they go way overboard with the grease and you end up with dieseling. So, right, like I say, I forgot what washers in there after I've taken them out. Oh, I think I took them out. I didn't. It's matterless anyway. Like I say, you've got to come back and adjust for power anyway, so like I say, no, they're still in there. Ah, they're in there, right. So, like I say, piston into the compression chamber, sit it on the top like that, and I'll just rock it round in a circle, ever so gently. I haven't noticed I didn't put any grease inside the piston, inside the compression tube. That's because your Delrin rings should lubricate it by itself. So like I say, little circular motion, just sits it inside. There you go. Down, and pull it back and forward a few times. There you go, starting to smoothen off now. There we go. Nice solid compression. Put it against your face. You should be able to feel the air coming out. Nice, nice tight seal. So that's that done. Inside anyway. Right, so their spares, they're gone. That. And hands a quick wipe. So right, what we've got, back to the compression tube, the action, whatever you want to call it. So I'll fold that back, I'll give the cock and shoe a bit of a wipe, get rid of the old grease. Always better to start afresh because you don't know what's accumulated in that. What I did do is, a few bits of these inside here, the aluminium, obviously with our cock and shoe, starts to wear. So what I've actually done is got some wet and dry, and I've just made that, took all the burrs and everything off the edges so it's nice and smooth inside, nicely polished in there, and that should make for a nice cocking action once you put that back in. So right, same again with this. Like I say, we've polished it all up. You've got your buttons on the end. Get your grease, dab on the button, dab on the button, dab on the button, around your Delrin ring. So obviously you've got two bearing surfaces now. Your piston runs in the back of the action, or the cylinder tube, whatever you want to call it. So like that, there you go, and then the slightest amount on your finger, obviously you can see where the cock and shoe is, sits there, so ever so slightest amount, basically you should be able to see through the metal, see through the grease onto the metal. If you think you're putting too much on, wipe it off your finger and just use whatever's there, like that. So people say, oh yeah, you put it all on the whole cylinder. What happens when you come to the pellet port, or the breech, access to the breech, or whatever you want to call it? So, but like I say, this is the way I do things, and it works for me, and I've done it for a few people, a few local lads down the range, actually at the range on a Sunday when I'm down there. Actually have a little bit of a tinker every now and then. I can't really help myself with other people's rifles, so like I say, they're all over the moon, and I'm sure that would, if they see the video, they'll comment. So like I say, that's the compression tube, all nice and lightly greased. Like I say, you should be able to see the metal through the grease. You didn't need that much. Circle bit up goes towards your cocking slot for obvious reasons. Bear trap, you've got to have the lever down for the bear trap, obviously, because you cannot push it in with the bear trap down. So that's got to be fully down. Once that's there, you can lift it up. You get your spring, tiny wee little bit of grease around the Delrin top hat, and again around the back of the Delrin and the washer itself. This just helps the spring when it's in the decompression stage for it to spin, because like you see, when the spring compresses, it does actually move in a circle. So tiny, like you say, a tiny little bit of sliver around there, just so you can see it's actually greased, haven't gone overboard with it. So like you say, the more you put on here, the more that gets inside the compression tube, and again you get your diesel in. That should slide over the top, nice and free, sits inside, pushes home. Right, so this bit, your trigger housing, give it a good wipe off, clean all the oil and everything off, because obviously you can see you get all your oil into your action and all that sort of stuff as well. The port where the sear goes, as obviously your piston actually goes in through the hole and locks onto the trigger sear at the back here. So just make sure that's free from dirt, grease, there's no big lumps or anything like that inside it. There's no snapped or anything like that. Just to see a quick visual inspection, you don't need to strip the trigger block. So, and then that, what I'll do is slightest little bit amount on my finger again, just on the bearing surfaces, like that. A little bit of a sheen. Slide that in. Pull your cotton shoe forward. Lift it up. Got your bolt, what we had before. Like I say, a little bit of downward pressure. You don't need much preload with these. I'll just move it this way a little bit so you can see. Like I say, a little bit of downward pressure, and you should be able to screw it in with your finger. Like that till it goes tight. Back up into your gun rest. Small adjustable spanner. Like I say, I don't put them overly tight, because if you've got to strip it, you just got to take it all back off again. So it's just starting to get finger tight there now. So put the adjustable on, and that's how tight you need it. Like I say, till it stops, and then just give it that little bit extra, just to make sure it's locked in place. Right, your cocking slot, back to your grease again, little bit on your finger, side of the cocking shoe, both sides, like that, a little bit on there. Cotton board, little dab on the end of the cotton board, hammering it up, down and around the cocking slot. Like that. Still a little bit of grease on, doesn't matter. There we go. This one inside. Cocking bolt. Check for any damage, any worn threads, anything like that. Because I have heard of people saying that they are prone to pulling the threads out. So I haven't had the problem personally, but it's just off other people. Sits on there like that. Allen key. Just square the cocking lever up. Should screw straight in, effortless. Like that. If you want it to be technical, then when you're ready, a little bit of double Loctite, because like you say, they are prone to coming loose. Tension wise, feel it till it goes tight, and I give it a quarter turn. That's it. Don't need any more. That's done. The oil, like you see, give it a shake, make sure all the gubbins up inside. A little bit on each of the pivot points. A little bit inside the spring for the pre-tension. Let's lift it up. A little bit in there, like that. That should lock in solid once it's in. Obviously, like you see, we have spring. And that's basically how to fit a V-Mach kit. The last stage is probably the obvious bit, is putting the stock back on, which is just, again, your 6 bolts that you took out earlier on. So what I do is flick it over. You can just see where I greased the compression tube in here. There is like your fingerprints with the grease on. Wipe off the excess like that, and then give you a blow and just make sure there's no marks, anything like that. And then there we go. Basically, that's how to fit a V-Mach kit. So what I'll do is I'll stick the stock back on, switch the camera off, because obviously you don't want to watch us stick the stock back on, but obviously it's in reversal, the same order. Through the cocking lever, make sure your trigger's sitting in the right place, and just gently click it into place like that, and then replace your bolts. But what I do is, don't put them in and tighten them up straight away. Put them in finger tight, and put all the bolts in first to make sure that it's actually going to sit square, and you're not going to have one hole here and the bolt's actually further back because you've tightened that one up too much. So put all the bolts in before you get them tightened up, and there we go. That's how to fit the V-Mach kit. So let's see what I'll do. I'll bang it all back together. I'll set the chrono up, and we'll see what it's pushing out on its first shoot. So if you bear with us. Right, folks. So here we go. So what we've got is, we've got the chrono, as you can see, set to 7.3 grains. I'm using the Falcon Accuracy Plus at 7.3 grains, 4.5 mil. So what we'll do is, ready to go. So hopefully we'll end up with some good results. So let's see, I'm only going to do 3 shots. Obviously you don't want to see me shooting pellets all day, so like I say, here we'll go. .6. Strange. Very strange. Sure there's some off there, like, but 9.9. 10.7. There we go, it's starting to creep up a little bit now. So, like I say, we've got the bedding in process to go through yet, because obviously every spring has got a bed in, so 9.9. Like I say, we're a little bit down on power, which is obviously why they've put the washers in. So 10.6. I think it's going to fluctuate a bit till it gets bedded in. So we'll, like I say, I'm happy with that actually at 10.6. So 10.3. So there we go. Maybe I'll put one more washer in. But I'm going to leave it at that and let it bed in first. And then, like I say, I'll put a couple of hundred pellets through it and see where it rises up. But ideally, I want to run about 11, between 11 and 11.2. So there we go. Like I say, that's the conclusion. That's the V-Mach kit fitted. That's it, over the chrono with a lightweight pellet. So obviously, like I say, once it gets bedded in, I'll check the power again, and then we'll do some proper testing, and then we'll get it down the range and see what it's like for accuracy. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Cause the fog on the tyne is all mine, all mine. The fog on the tyne is all mine. The fog on the tyne is all mine, all mine. The fog on the tyne is all